What is known by the very loose title in English-speaking countries as the Second Viennese School was begun by Arnold Schoenberg and his pupils in the early part of the 20th century. One of Schoenberg's pupils was the brilliant Anton Webern, who became a disciple of Schoenberg, following in his teacher's use of chromaticism, serialism, and atonality. This early work in our November program is the Langsamer Satz, slow movement, and was written by Webern whilst a student of Schoenberg in 1905. The work is highly romantic. It is full of Brahmsian romanticism, but he makes special use of the wide range of colours and effects that a string quartet has to offer. For those of you that don't know Webern's music, this work is a wonderful introduction to his genius. Following the Webern, we continue our Beethoven cycle with the Second Symphony in D major, which was dedicated to Prince Karl von Lichnowsky and first performed in April 1803 in Vienna. If proof were needed that the true artist creates out of his total experience, then one need only look at the circumstances surrounding the composition of his Opus 36. For this brilliant and original piece was completed during Beethoven's summer break in Heiligenstadt in 1802, the time of his greatest despair on realization that his increasing deafness could be a permanent affliction. And as I said, it was performed in April 1803 at a concert in the Theatre an der Wien, which also included the premiere of Beethoven's C minor piano concerto. The local critic, who was present from the Allgemeine Musikalische Zeitung, described the new symphony typically as a work full of new, original ideas, of great strength, sensitive in orchestration, and intellectual in concept, but one that would surely benefit from the abbreviation of some passages and the deletion of others, for the modulations are entirely too eccentric. The vigorous independence that Beethoven had shown in his chamber works had now surfaced in the world of the symphony, though it bears features reminiscent of Mozart's Prague Symphony. Thayer, who was Beethoven's biographer, purposefully kept musical criticism to an absolute minimum in his life of Beethoven, but he could not contain himself when discussing this composition. He said, "It's a work whose grand and imposing introduction, brilliant allegro, a larghetto so lovely, so pure and amiably conceived, a scherzo as merry wayward, skipping and charming as anything possible, and a finale, the very intoxication of a spirit, intoxicated with fire, made it an era both in the life of its author and in the history of instrumental music." After the interval, we come to Brahms's Second Piano Concerto. This work is unusual as it is in 4 movements and has an added scherzo. The first movement is colossal, opening with the beautiful, gentle horn solo with answers from the solo piano, before it takes off in somewhat frustrated form, and then making the orchestra play this opening theme with fire and passion. It is this very opening dialogue of the work that sets the tone of the relationship between the soloist and the orchestra for the remainder of the work. They are always equals, and the musical discussion is thrown from one to another throughout the piece. The second movement is a fiery scherzo in D minor, which was originally intended for the violin concerto. But the heart of this work is undoubtedly the slow movement in B flat, which is dominated by the solo cello. The finale is a rondo in 5 clearly defined sections, ending with a coda. And this movement is imbued with happiness and lightness, and it's also been compared to Mozart. But its monumental scale with trumpets and drums dropped from the score. Actually, they only play in the first 2 movements of these 4 movements. But still, Brahms creates a movement that sparkles with all of the variety and colour of a wonderful kaleidoscope. For our performances of this extraordinary piece, we welcome Jeffrey Biegel.
Jeffrey Biegel, guest artist with New Haven Symphony Orchestra this week. And it's a great pleasure to be here, bringing Brahms Piano Concerto No. 2 in B-flat major. It's one of the grandest monumental piano concertos in the history of the piano concerto. And what makes it so special is Brahms writing not only for the piano, but for the orchestra. And the interplay between the piano and the orchestra, it's truly the grandest chamber music of its kind. And I haven't performed it in 18 years, I dare say. So I'm revisiting it with great pleasure and enjoying every moment of working with the orchestra. And I hope you will have enjoyed the concert if you have heard it already. And if you are subscribers, come to more concerts. It's a fantastic orchestra, and it's a pleasure to be here for the very first time this season. Thank you.